Good morning. For those of you whom I have not yet met, I'm Dennis Galladay, the president of the college here. And I want to welcome all of you to today's presentation, which I think is going to deliver to us some important messages that we have to hear and that are directly relevant to what we do here at the college in terms of the programs that we offer. The Susquehanna Workforce Network did commission a study, a labor market analysis, to identify workforce needs here in the two-county region of Cecil and Harford counties. And I really want to commend the Susquehanna Workforce Network for putting together the study and commissioning Dr. Basu to conduct the study. It's something that we really need and something from which we can take a lot of direction. So what I would like to do now is to introduce to you the director of the Susquehanna Workforce Network, Mr. Bruce England, who will introduce our speaker. Bruce?
First, I want to begin, before I introduce our speaker, with a thank you to the college. The college has been a workforce partner of ours and collaborator for many, many years, and it's the talent and energy of the staff here at the college that has helped us to do a lot of things in the past several years. Most recently, we were lucky enough, I guess, to receive a couple of substantial grants, and the aggressiveness of the staff at the college in customizing programs and customizing schedules has, over the last probably 12 to 16 months, enabled us to invest over $250,000 here at the college in people to gain skills to go or re-enter the workforce. So the college has been a critical partner of ours for a long time. I thank Dr. Galladay for bringing this presentation to the college. We commissioned this staff with the help of both the Harford and Cecil County offices of economic development, hoping that this would help us in planning new programs and some strategies going down the road to help grow our business community and increase the skills of our workforce. I have about, okay, I was delaying time. Let me introduce our speaker. I want to say that this has been one of our easiest engagements with a researcher, and that's partly or largely due to his talents and his experience in this part of the country and in Maryland. Let me tell you a little bit about his background. Mr. Basu is chairman and CEO of the Sage Policy Group, Incorporated, an economic and policy consulting firm in Baltimore, Maryland. Mr. Basu is one of the Mid-Atlantic region's most recognizable economists, in part because of his consulting work on behalf of numerous clients, including prominent developers, bankers, brokerage houses, energy suppliers, and law firms. On behalf of government agencies and nonprofit organizations, Mr. Basu has written several high-profile economic development strategies. Among other things, Anirban serves as the chief economist to Associated Builders and Contractors and as chief economic advisor to Construction Financial Managers Association. In recent years, he has also focused upon health economics, the economics of education, and economic development. He currently lectures at Johns Hopkins University in micro and macro, international, and urban economics. In 2007, Mr. Basu was selected by the Daily Record newspaper as one of Maryland's 50 most influential people. The Baltimore Business Journal named him one of the region's 20 most powerful business leaders in 2010. Mr. Basu is involved with numerous organizations in a voluntary capacity, including serving as a Baltimore City Public Schools board member and a board member to the Baltimore Children's Museum and to the Baltimore School for Arts. Mr. Basu is also on the board of First Mariner Bank. Did you finance Joe Flacco's? He's also the chairman of Baltimore County Economic Advisory Committee and economic advisor to the Baltimore-Washington Carter Chamber of Commerce. He earned his BS in Foreign Service at Georgetown University. He earned his Master's in Public Policy from Harvard University, Harvard University's John F. Kennedy School of Government, his Master's in Economics from the University of Maryland, College Park, and his Juris Doctor was earned at the University of Maryland School of Law. I guarantee you, you are going to hear of some new opportunities. You're probably going to hear and be refreshed on some current and existing challenges. And I guarantee you, with all that information, you're also going to be entertained for about 35 minutes. After he's done, he'll accept questions and provide some answers. Welcome Anirban to the stage.
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning. My name is Anirban Basu. I am an economist. Please hold any further applause. And I've been asked to talk to you about economic matters, particularly those pertaining to the labor market, and in particular those pertaining to the labor market in this part of the country and this part of the state. Normally I talk about broad economic issues. I'd give you a forecast for the economy. I'd talk about the stock market. The Dow Jones opens this morning at 14,127.82. Dow futures are up this morning, and it is possible that by the end of the day, when the market closes at 4 p.m., we'll achieve an all-time high on the Dow Jones. The all-time high was 14,164.53. So it could be a big day, but I'm not going to talk about any of it. I'm going to talk about the study that we did for Mr. England and the Susquehanna Workforce Network. I'm going to talk about labor market opportunities, demographics, how this community is changing, the fact that this community is becoming more educated. But that means, of course, and that's a very good thing, but that also means that the competition for jobs is becoming stiffer. And I think many of you, particularly those of you who are young and students at this college, know that in many cases, a college degree has become what a high school diploma used to be, a sort of minimal level of educational attainment necessary to achieve even basic employment. And I'll talk more about this as I go through the presentation, and that's sort of symptomatic of the fact that the world has become much more competitive. And so let me get into the material. I've entitled the presentation, Labor Market Analysis of the Susquehanna Workforce Investment Area. Sounds pretty interesting, doesn't it? Not at all. And you'll see that some of this is, in fact, quite dry. But that said, I'll try to keep it lively. This was the purpose of our study. The Susquehanna Workforce Network hired us. I have a small consultancy in Baltimore, Maryland, 12 employees. We were founded on April 26, 2004. So we are almost 10 years old, have never missed payroll, no debt. We made payroll on Friday for our 230th consecutive time. And so we're pleased with that. And part of the reason for that is we have clients like Bruce who pay on time. The report, and I'll talk about the second bullet now, the report provides background and data that could be utilized by economic and workforce planners to establish goals that will help this community meet current and future workforce needs. This report may also be useful in developing a strategic plan, which is another way of saying it's not a strategic plan. That it provides the statistical foundation for such a strategic plan, what's going on in the community, how the labor market is changing, how the economy is changing, how Harford County compares to Baltimore County and Baltimore City, and how the Baltimore region compares to the Washington region, that kind of background information. The basis for strategic planning, but not the strategic plan itself. That said, you'll see at the end, we do offer some recommendations that we delivered with the help of and formed with the help of the Susquehanna Workforce Network. So let me talk a little bit about employment trends. And this gives you some sense of employment trends and number of business establishments in this part of the country. So let me just focus on this top panel here. Total number of establishments, 2005 data here, 2011 data here, and you can see that the number of businesses actually rose in Maryland, actually rose in the Baltimore metropolitan area, and Harford County is part of the Baltimore metropolitan area. 2.7 million people in the Baltimore metropolitan area, one of the most educated, affluent regions of the country, though many people don't realize that because the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area is even more educated and affluent, but of course they did not win Super Bowl 47, which offsets everything. So this is the Susquehanna Workforce Investment Area. That's Cecil plus Harford counties. So whenever you see Susquehanna WIA, that means Cecil plus Harford counties, and you can see the number of establishments rising. And I'll talk more about establishment data in a moment. I want to focus, though, more here on the employment data. You see total employment between 2005 and 2011 actually fell in Maryland. In the last 6 years, even as Maryland's population has grown, the number of jobs has fallen. And this is, of course, a reflection of the Great Recession. And that moniker, that label, the Great Recession, was earned. This represented the largest decline in gross domestic product since 1946. And guess what? You get to join the labor force just after that event. And you can see the number of jobs has actually fallen. I'll talk about the kinds of jobs that are being created and being destroyed as I go through the presentation. In the Baltimore metropolitan area, negative 0.7%. In Harford County, well, this county actually added jobs. And I'll show you where those jobs came from and why, and you often hear this in an investment context, past performance is not necessarily an indication of future performance. So you look at this and say Harford County did very well during this challenging 6-year period, but I'll talk about why that doesn't necessarily mean that Harford County will outperform going forward, and it has everything to do with the composition of that job creation. And then look at Cecil County, negative 4.3%. Now, as a region, the Susquehanna Workforce Investment Area added jobs, but the addition of jobs was completely a Harford County story. Harford County added not quite 3,000 jobs during this period. Cecil County lost over 1,000 jobs during this period. Now, this is private establishments by size. This is a reflection of, again, for the students, the kinds of firms you're likely to work for, and you're more likely than not, just not knowing anything else, to work for a pretty small firm. So this is percentage of total establishments. Micro enterprises, that meaning enterprises with 0 to 9 employees. And by the way, a lot of these micro enterprises are defined as having 0 employees. The only person that's associated with the company is the owner. And he or she works from his or her home. They have no employees. So a lot of these micro enterprises are actually 0 employees. But anyway, from a definitional perspective, 0 to 9. You see how many establishments in the Susquehanna Workforce Investment Area? 5,500, roughly. That represented more than 3/4 of all establishments in this region of the country. Why is this important? Because if you only have 0 to 9 employees, what are you looking for from your typical employee? Versatility. Multiple skills. You want them to be able to answer the phone. You want them to be able to write down notes regarding what the client says. You want them to be able to use a computer. You want them to be able to go out and get lunch. Versatility. That's what you need. And maybe do some actual work in the process. Versatility. 3/4. You can see small, medium. Let me focus on large. Only 1.8% of establishments are large, but that group represents 36% of employment. So what is this slide basically saying? Small businesses are important, and so are big businesses. All businesses are important. And one of the questions we ask as Marylanders in particular is, why do they exist here? What is it about Maryland that keeps these businesses anchored here when Delaware offers lower taxes and cheaper labor, as does Pennsylvania, cheaper land and labor, so on and so forth? Well, the answer has to be the quality of the labor force. Because we're a more expensive place in which to do business. And so why would people want to be here? Well, part of it might be their customers are here. So a grocery store, it's obvious why they're here. Their customers are here. I get that. But some of these large businesses could go anywhere they want to go, and yet they're in Maryland. And what's the key to keeping them in Maryland? Labor force. And I'll talk more about this as I go through the presentation as well. This is Susquehanna Workforce Investment Area job growth. Again, 2005 through 2011. You see this total number of jobs added, 1,511. You see that? Public sector, meaning government, up 3,913 jobs. Why did Harford County add jobs between 2005 and 2011? Because the public sector grew. And what was the singular event of 2005 to 2011? Base realignment. The only reason, by and large, Harford County held up was because of base realignment, the jobs coming to Aberdeen Proving Ground, and the multiplier effect on those jobs. If it weren't for those jobs, what would Harford County have been from an economic performance perspective? Cecil County. That's what the data stand for. All the job growth was in the public sector. Look what happened to the private sector. It shrank by 2,400 jobs. And you say, okay, yeah, sure. So the mix of employment is changing towards the public sector. What's the problem? The problem is automatic sequestration.